No intro music. How crazy. What a crazy week we're living in. What a crazy world we live in. I went to press intro music and it didn't even work. Things are going wrong here over the Franchise Tag podcast, but they're not going wrong in the world of NFL. What a weird opening to one of our last main show before the Super Bowl. Welcome. I'm Freddie Hall, your host, joined by the whole gang. Other than Johnny, who's out in Austria having a lovely time from looks like on his social media. Adam Martin, Andrew Manning, Gareth Smith, Sky Lawrence Pank, all here. All of us here to talk about one event and one event only. And no, it's not Rihanna at the halftime show. It is the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going, you're not talking about Rihanna? No mention for Rihanna at all?
Umbrella. I was ready.
Yeah. That's all I'm here for.
It would have been the first Franchise Tag a cappella Umbrella that ever happened on here. Well, if it isn't us singing Umbrella that you want to watch, you can watch all of this on the Franchise Tag podcast. We had loads of stuff coming out recently. We've got a lovely interview, Hannah Wilkes, that came out the other day with Gareth and Johnny. We've got lots of stuff with XFL players that Gareth has been doing. We'll talk more about that during the show, about what we are doing as the Franchise Tag podcast and more stuff that is going forward. But it is Super Bowl week. We are only days away, minutes, hours away till we go to Phoenix, Arizona. The Arizona Cardinals Stadium, State Farm Stadium, I believe it's State Farm Stadium, but we will be seeing the showdown between two of the very, very good franchises they have been this year. The Kansas City Chiefs, who have just been remarkable. Patrick Mahomes once again lighting up this league, leading probably some of the discussion in the MVP votes. And then we have the Philadelphia Eagles, such a dominant defense, most sacks since the 85 Bears, a formidable team. Both teams very, very good indeed. I'm going to go to Gareth to begin with because he's a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Are the nerves setting in yet, Gareth? We were chatting beforehand about the Mahomes factor, but the Eagles, you've had such a strong season. There was a little hiccup towards the end with the injury to Jalen Hurts, but lost you a couple of games, I suppose. But you've got to be feeling confident heading into Sunday, right?
I am. I'm a lot more confident I've ever been going into a Super Bowl. Like, it's because we're not going up against Brady and the Pats like the last two times we were there. I don't get me wrong, I know Mahomes and the Chiefs have an air about it, but they don't have the dynasty feel to a Brady and Patriots team. We are, I think, still the favourites for it, and I do think across the board we are probably the better team. I think the only, as you mentioned, the main factor is it's that man, Patrick Mahomes. What can he do while running around like a headless chicken being chased around by our defence? But still cause absolute chaos. It is a nervy thing, but I'm quite confident.
And Adam, I suppose you're going to be the guy who's going to stand up for the Kansas City Chiefs, even though you've been an honorary Philadelphia Eagle all year. It seems as you are a Green Bay Packer fan, but when that other green team comes out, you tend to get a bit of an Eagles favoritism within you. But I'm going to put the Kansas City Chiefs on you. The Mahomes factor is definitely still there with the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen that all this year. They've got their team pretty much full. I believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. However, McCall Hardman has gone on to IR. They're a team on a roll. Maybe not with the team with stars that the Eagles have got at the minute, but the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been here before. They've been in these big games, and they've found a way to win a lot of these big games.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. Do you genuinely want me to kind of create a case for them? They're good.
You're just like the intro music. You're backfiring on me. All of this is going so horrendously wrong.
I thought I was supposed to be the really biased one for the Eagles. I've been more positive than Adam was about the Chiefs.
I find it difficult to get away from the Eagles on this particular one. To be brutally honest, I'm finding it a bit difficult to kind of get into this game as a game. I don't think it's going to be as spectacular as what everyone thinks it's going to be. I think the Bengals not being there is a massive letdown for, I think me and Andrew especially were kind of hoping that they would get through. I think that the problem the problem for the Chiefs is, as Gareth said, it's all on one guy, and it's only going to last for so long. Eventually it will struggle, and he won't be able to do everything, and he'll come up against that one team. And I just think that the Eagles are a really strong, solid team that I've said from day one. And it's, I don't see much else happening, to be honest. Sorry.
Sky, someone's got to be flying the Chiefs Kingdom flag here. I mean, most of your picks have gone the right way. You've been definitely a pillar for some teams. Say the team to beat, and they're on a good run. Are you not backing the Chiefs this time either?
I never thought I'd fly the flag for them, but maybe now Tom Brady is retired, I'll have to do so. I have to say that the Chiefs this season and Mahomes, he probably has to be one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in terms of making people in that offense better around him. I think everybody was predicting they would fail without Tyreek Hill. Of course, not to the point of missing the playoffs, but the fact that they made the Super Bowl this season is a massive achievement. Led the NFL in yards per attempt with passing. But then again, the Eagles, I think, have led the league in, giving up the fewest yardage with the pass. So it is a coin toss. I just hope it's not like when they lost to Tampa, what was it, like 31-9? Because obviously this Eagles defense is capable of doing that to them. But I think they have a chance, like we've all said, they've got Mahomes. And one of the things that I think this is a big thing for the Chiefs, and I was reading about it earlier, is that the Chiefs are first in the league in terms of pressing, like at the point of snap. And I think if they can do that, the Eagles need to use a lot more RPOs. They'll have to get motion going to get AJ Brown and Smith, involved. So if the defense stays aggressive and they can create some opportunities, then maybe there's a chance. I tried my best to fly the flag for them. I tried.
Well, that's okay, because I know I'm going to go to Andrew, and I know he's going to be waving a Philadelphia Eagles for his NFC East rivals. And it might be one of the only nights you do it, Andrew, but I feel like you're confidently backing the Eagles in this fight.
No part of me is ever going to say the words "I'm backing the Eagles." It's going to come to me to say who counter argument to support the Chiefs, because I will be supporting the Chiefs just for the sheer fact I cannot support the Eagles in winning anything. It's not in my nature. I cannot do it. And when it comes to a Super Bowl, which is what it is, and it's a one-off game, all the season's out the window. If I said to you, the best quarterback in the league with the best tight end in the league that's got some really good defenders and the best coach in the league, you'd be saying, oh, the Patriots made it again. They'll win it easy. But no, it's the Chiefs. It's exactly the same storyline. They're set up the same way. Plethora of really average wide receivers, one excellent tight end, and the best quarterback and the best head coach going at the minute. So why not Chiefs to win it in the Super Bowl? That's what wins it.
That certainly is what wins it. And I mean, we'll probably talk about scores and who we think will win, even though you've probably gauged a little bit of who we think will win anyway. But let's maybe just talk more about the journey. So I'll go to Sky on this. I mean, like we've talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs already, it was not a surprise. It's not a surprise today that they are in the Super Bowl. There was a lot of hype them before the season that they would make it back to the Super Bowl. You touched on it a little bit, that Tyreek Hill going, not really replaced him, bringing in quite a plethora of talent to try and replace him in Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, drafting Sky Moore. They tried to plug up the hole, and they had that O-line that they rebuilt again after it really failed on Mahomes in the last Super Bowl they were in. How impressive have they been this year? I mean, they're 14-3. Both teams in this contest are 14-3. How impressive has Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs team in totality been to you?
I think they've been super, super impressive, and the way the offense has developed throughout the season. I touched upon it, but getting Isaiah Pacheco involved more. He had a good game last week, was involved a lot more in the passing game. We saw McKinnon, he come out of nowhere. I remember Adam mentioning that he, was being really, really good. And I mean, look at even the game against the Bengals, like you said, people going down and then MVS turning up and having a big game. So I think just throughout the whole season, I'd say they're the more battle-hardened team. People have touched upon the Eagles having an easier schedule. There's been weeks in terms of where the Commanders, the first loss the Eagles had, they put 30-plus points up on them. Even Aaron Rodgers and a stuttering Packers offense managed to put a lot of points up on them. I think the Cowboys did 40, and I think they've gone through stretches of the Eagles being dominant for 4 or 5 games, and they actually come up against a good team, and maybe they've just been a little bit, not complacent, but with how impressive the Chiefs have been and having sort of 2 tougher playoff games. Yeah, I think both teams with the same record, but I would argue the Chiefs are the more battle-hardened and come into this one with, if it's a close game, probably a better chance of seeing it out.
And Andrew, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs have only, like I said, lost 3 games this year. Lost the Indianapolis Colts, the Buffalo Bills, and the Cincinnati Bengals in the regular season, sweeping the Jags 27-20 in the divisional round, beating the Bengals closely 23-20 in the AFC Championship. What is the key to this team? Outside of Pat Mahomes obviously being on his day, but what is the key to this team to win them these big games and to put themselves in a position where they can really cause Philadelphia problems?
I think the key is going to be down to those rookies they've got in the secondary, of whether they can step it up again like they did in the previous game. It's, it's the big stage now, and there's going to be a lot of nerves on them. They've not been there before. It's nothing like they've experienced. I know Cook, McDuffie, and Watson all in the secondary for the Chiefs. They've got to step up. They did last round, and it really showed. And it's where their weakness has been all year. Because I don't see any weaknesses anywhere else. You've got the big names up front with Chris Jones and Frank Clark, who are going to be putting the pressure on. We know that. And we've already mentioned the offense and what they've got going. Mahomes will get the best out of all those average receivers. And it's nice that they've got a bit more in the run game with the guys they've got going. So I think if the secondary steps up, they've got a really good shot at this.
And do you agree, Adam, that the secondary stepping up? I mean, it's the one thing when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Simultaneously, when we talk about a lot of teams, we say one thing, we say next to it the other thing. Steelers, good edge rushers, Packers, Aaron Rodgers, Buccaneers, Tom Brady, Raiders this year, Josh Jacobs, and we have a simultaneous thing going on. When we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, it is just Pat Mahomes. We don't really talk about their defense. And like Sky was saying, that they're one of the top teams in pressures on the quarterback. Frank Clark, Chris Jones have been fantastic this year. I mean, even the edge rusher they drafted, George Karlaftis, has not really been talked about. He's been very good. The secondary's been pretty decent. A lot of people thought when Tyrann Mathieu left that was going to be a big problem for them. And yet they still perform. Or do you think it's a case of, no, we just score more points than you?
I think that is a very big factor to it. It is just we score more points than you. I mean, the one thing that we always came out and said all the way through the season, they are ranked the worst when it comes to giving up passing touchdowns, not because the defense is appallingly bad, just because the other team has to throw the ball more and has to get quicker scores in order to get more points, in order to keep up with the Chiefs. That is how it's been throughout most of the season. Now, that will get you so far, and it's obviously got them to a Super Bowl, but whether that will actually get them to be able to beat against a team that is a kind of quite an all-round very good team that has been created, then that's going to be very, very difficult for them. That sort of the corners, as Andrew said, they're the ones that have been tested the most. They've struggled the most throughout the season. They did well against the Bengals. They did put up a good performance against the Bengals, but it's the first time in a long time that they've put up a good performance. Whether they will be able to do that again, I don't know, because you're going up against. The problem is their defense is incredibly good against the run and very bad against the pass. And that's where the problem comes in. So it's a matter of being able to stop both, because with this particular Eagles offense, you've got the rushing from people like Sanders, but you've also got Hurts as well. You see, this is the slightly different. Burrow, not so much of a rushing quarterback. I know he does, but nothing like what Hurts does. So this is going to be where it's a little bit different. Same time, if you stop him running, he's more than capable of passing it to many, many different receivers with Goddard, AJ Brown, Smith as well. It's going to be tough. It's a really difficult one to be able to sort of like stop all avenues. And I think that's the biggest problem that they've got.
When we look around at the league, Gareth, in terms of connections, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, is that the best combination of offense attacking threat in the league? Because for the last 5 years, last 4 years, really, them two have just dominated. Andrew has said it before about why is Kelce not lauded as much in this league as being one of the best offensive weapons in this league when he breaks receiving stats, he breaks receiving touchdown stats every year for tight ends. And yet we forget about him because he's not Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase. but this combination has won them countless games in the past, and it's probably one of the most reliable. Do you think it is the best offensive combination in the NFL?
Well, as mentioned earlier, wasn't it? There was the combination of Gronk and Brady. It's very similar to that. It literally is. It's particularly when they get to the red zone, you literally know that it's going to go to him, and yet you still can't stop it. When you've got someone who is as big as him, but also with as good of hands as him, strength, everything there, he can be borderline impossible to stop. But I think that them two are the key for them to get anything from this game. I think that, as you say, they are right now the best combo in the NFL. And I think it's because they are a combo, whereas they're up against an Eagles side that don't need to have a combo because they've got everything else. They have AJ Brown, Smith, Goddard. You don't know which one's going to get it. So I think that they are the best, but they will need to be that good to win on Sunday.
And Andrew mentioned it really at the top of the show, and I will go back to you, Andy, is that a fellow Andrew, and I presume he's christened Andrew, but Andy Reid specifically, you said best coach in the NFL at the minute, and maybe has been for a moment. How much do you think his influence on this team, enables them to be able to go to the big stage most year? Because they're in the conversation every year. And for someone there's a lot of older coaches around the league who feels like it's slowing down. Then we had the Sean McVay revolution, where it was every young, innovative coach, and now the Kyle Shanahan sort of innovation, I suppose, as well. Every young coach is getting hired, and everyone wants that. And yet it's one of the older guys in the league that is running one of the most successful teams in the NFL at the minute. How much do you think it is him that stems this winning mentality?
I think when it comes to the playoffs, it is a lot down to the head coach. I think that really matters. I think when me and Adam were talking about the playoffs and we were talking about who would win, and it was a coin toss between some of the teams, we tended to steer towards the team that had the head coach with more experience within the playoffs, because I think that there's an element, we saw it in the Super Bowl. It's almost a game of chess. The Super Bowl can be when it comes to tactics and strategy and play at the game clock and all of that. And we've seen a lot of the young coaches that have had amazing seasons get to the playoffs and they're one and done, or so close but not there. But Andy Reid seems to know how to get it done, what to do, what to call. And I think when you're a young player, like I said, they've got a lot of rookies. When they come to the sideline or they're in the locker room, and he's going to have a story and an experience and something to say that is from him being there and done it, and it's going to inspire them to get more out of them. Whereas if you're a new coach to it and you've only been there once, this is your second time, you might not have the words because your adrenaline's going with them. Where he's going to be cool, calm. I've been here. Don't you worry, guys. I've got this. I think that pays a lot when you're going into big games such as the Super Bowl.
And what's quite clear, Sky, is that Andy Reid really allows Pat Mahomes to be Pat Mahomes, doesn't he? He really gives him that creative freedom, which I think a lot of quarterbacks maybe don't feel like they have around the league. Do you think that this Pat Mahomes Andy Reid combination, that Pat Mahomes maybe would be at the heights that he is at if it wasn't for Andy Reid doing this alongside him and enabling him to be able to be the quarterback that we know and love today?
He definitely needs Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid's learned from not his mistakes, but his early years in the Eagles. He was almost questioned all the time of, is he a head coach who could get it done? He had the Patriots, so they lost to the Patriots in that Super Bowl, obviously in like the early 2000s. And then there was a lot of, 8-8 seasons where they couldn't get it done once they got there. But I think now he's been in the league for so long, he just has the advantage, as Andy touched upon. Coaches get to that point where they've seen multiple things. They know what's coming, and in a chess match, that's so important. So, I think it's just one of those combinations where, not that it's luck, but sometimes things are meant to be. Brady and Belichick was meant to be. Dungy and Peyton Manning was, and I think Mahomes and Andy Reid is the perfect combination. They bring the best out of each other, and I think as Andy Reid's grown as a head coach, it's allowed him to be more expansive in his play calling. But like you said, also let Mahomes do what he does best as well.
Right, I know Gareth's itching for us to move on to his team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we'll come to you in a moment, Gareth, so you can tell us all about how you guys are going to win the Super Bowl. I'm going to go to Adam to begin with. The Eagles this year really been a revelation. It feels, obviously, it wasn't that long ago, but they won the Super Bowl, and it was in such extraordinary circumstances, beating the Patriots with the Philly special, with Nick Foles coming in for Carson Wentz. It was so poetry in motion. It was so crazy. Whereas this year, this team has been a really good, solid team on all levels of play. The quarterback's been great. The O-line's been fantastic, if not best in the league. Receivers have been dominant. And then defensively as well, that defensive line has just been an absolute stud. All of them have been incredible. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, more combined sacks than the 85 Bears, who have, as we know today, are one of the best defenses ever. The secondary has been so phenomenal. I know you said at the start of the year, the Eagles could go to Super Bowl. Why did you think that when you saw this team, and how did you sort of know? I suppose I say no, you threw a dart at the wall, maybe, but
Whoa,
how did you?
whoa.
how did you know this team would garner this success?
I think predominantly from the acquisitions that they made in the off season. That was what it was. I mean, the biggest one that I felt that would make the most difference was Hassan Riddick. I just felt that Riddick was the one that would make the difference. I remember a couple of years, it was either a couple of years or the year before, I did a preview for a website, and it just happened to be that Hassan Riddick was a free agent and he went to Arizona. And you just kind of felt like he's someone who every year was getting like double-digit sacks. You know, if you actually look at his stats, it was crazy. And then they just went in and bought that guy. And then they trade for AJ Brown on draft night. And, you know, I feel like, not that you have to have two high quality wide receivers, but I think it makes a big difference. You know, you see with, you know, Burrow's got Higgins and Chase. Now with Mahomes, he has Kelsey. That's all he has when it comes to like high quality wide receivers. I think that's something you're going to start seeing more and more. You're going to need that. And I feel like bringing in someone like AJ Brown, it's weird. It's kind of almost made Devonta Smith seem like he's not that good, when Devonta Smith is that good. You know, he is an unbelievable talent. The only difference is that now he's got someone next to him who's also an unbelievable talent. And that's the difference. So I think just generally, doing that sort of thing, bringing in players who are proven already and are able to deal with the pressure of it and know what they're doing, and then going into the draft and bringing in people like Jordan Davis, who I know we all come out and go, he's the heir apparent to Fletcher Cox, but he's pretty good now as well, sort of thing. And it's like this is what it is. So, you know, you're getting them corners, you're getting like Bradbury coming in and stuff like that. It's just really, really good talent coming across the whole board, across everywhere. And it just felt like that was what they were doing. And you've got to remember, the year before, it's not like they were mega far off from winning that division either. So it kind of felt like if you then throw all of them players into it as well and improve in pretty much every area, it's only going to go one way. And you know, obviously they've managed to do it and it's all worked out. But I do feel an awful lot of it is Howie Roseman and what he did before the season even started.
I remember the Bradbury move happening and being really like, wow, that's a strong move to make. I really rated him at the New York Giants. Giants obviously had to cut him because of cap casualty, unfortunately. But yeah, he's such a fantastic call, and all the moves they made. I mean, we were all just as shocked to see AJ Brown get traded away on draft night. I mean, and Hassan Reddick at Carolina was brilliant, and we were quite shocked that Carolina wouldn't try and keep hold of him. Gareth, what has been the key to your success this year then? Because some people might say strength of schedule. I was one who said about your health. If you kept fit all year, because it's something that you've suffered with every year, is not all keeping healthy or your key players. What do you think has been the key to the success this year?
Howie Roseman. Simple as that. He is without doubt one of the best GMs in the NFL by a country mile. When you consider the fact that, as you say, we got AJ Brown, which was going to change the team overnight. We fleeced the Saints for Gardner Johnson as well. Halfway through the season, our run defense was looking great because, as you mentioned, Davis was out injured at the time. So he brings in Dominic and Sue and Joseph's in to literally shore up that run defense. Every time there's been anything that the Eagles remotely need to improve on, he's gone, okay, I'll get that now. Like, he just isn't a magician. And like, I know there's a few years where he literally, fans were on his back. Don't get me wrong. I think choosing Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, you can look back and say that might have been a mistake by him.
Might have been.
Slight mistake by him. We'll let him off that one.
Nothing another Super Bowl can't make you forget.
Exactly. But what he's built with this roster, I think, I can't remember who it was on Good Morning Football, said you could put me in charge of that team and I would get to the Super Bowl because just how good he was an ex-Giants, if I remember rightly, as well. He was being quite bitter about the fact that the Eagles smashed the Giants. But as he said, that it's just a superstar team. Every position is elite. You look at the corners, elite. You look at the D-line, even right down to the linebackers, even when you got players go out like Gardner Johnson goes out, you then bring in an undrafted free agent, Blankenship, who has a great run of form. And then you look at the offense. The offensive line is without doubt the best in football. The fact that pretty much all of them were Pro Bowl selected this year. You've also got the likes of the running backs, which Sanders last year, I think, got only was it 2 or 3 touchdowns last year, when majority hardly getting anything. 11 this year he's got. But it's not just him. You've got Gainwell getting loads. You've got Boston Scott, whenever he plays the Giants, will score. It just seems to be that they've assembled this roster that is just elite everywhere. And that comes from a quality GM finding the right players at the right price point. Howie Roseman, if he wins a second Super Bowl, he deserves a trophy, a statue outside of the link for this season. To build 2 potential Super Bowl winning rosters in 5 years, and it's not like it's the same roster either. When you look at the team that won it against the Patriots, how many of those players are still on the Eagles roster?
Not many.
Not that many. It's incredible to go from one Super Bowl winning team 5 years later, potentially have another with a complete different roster and different coaching staff and everything. That man is a genius.
I'm probably going to have to ask you, Andrew, a question that you probably don't want to really answer, I suppose. When Gareth talks about the depth of this squad and how good it is and how young it is in certain positions as well. I know the O-line's very good, but it is a bit older. Do you think the success of this team is continual with Roseman's work and the players that are bringing in? And do you think that this can carry on for quite a long time? Which I know, again, you probably want to say no, given they're your divisional rival, but on a neutral basis.
On a neutral basis, I agree. Harry Roseman, I know when we did the Honours show and we talked about awards, I said, could we give Harry Roseman Coach of the Year? Just because for me, it is his team. I think it's been flying around social media a lot this week that the whole offense was drafted by one player, which is AJ Brown. The rest of the whole of the starting offense for the Eagles was drafted. So that's just absolutely unbelievable. He's done an absolutely fantastic job. And I would like to touch on the comment that was made by Julian Love on Good Morning Football. He slammed the head coach, really. He just said, I don't think Nick Sirianni's that good. I think the team has carried him to a Super Bowl, not him coached them to a Super Bowl. And I think that just also reiterates that Howie Roseman is his team in it. And it should stay strong. They nailed their draft picks, as I've just said. It's there in writing. You can go and look at it. And there's no reason why they can't continue that. Every year when we talk about the draft or off season, we're talking about how well the Eagles did. So That's going to continue to happen. We've just got to close the gap. That's all we can do, close the gap, because I don't see them dropping off. The only thing I could possibly say as a negative of a drop-off is we've seen a lot of new things from the Eagles this year that other teams aren't doing. So that reminds me a little bit of when the Ravens were doing their own thing and people worked it out a little bit and caught up to them. So unless that happens, but like Adam says, they've got the weapons on wide receiver if it's not working in the run game. So that's the only negative I can see. If they can continue to do the same new things that the Eagles doing, will coaches watch all their tape? In the off season, we're going to be watching their tape. We're going to be looking at what they're doing. We're going to be copying what they're doing. So will we get savvy to it and catch them up that way? Maybe. But till that happens, the way they play football is the Eagles' way. So commend them for what they've done.
It's even when you look at it, though, they've even got players that are just sitting there that are learning this year. You've got Jurgens, who is the heir apparent to Kelsey. You've got Dean, who is going to be, I think, is going to be a hell of a player for us as well. You've got literally players like that who are just sitting there ready to go, that are the heir apparents to other parts. I've already talked about Jordan Davis being the Fletcher Cox heir apparent. You've got potentially Kelsey's heir there. You've got even the only one I think we need to probably look at is who's going to be Lane Johnson's long-term successor. But they've literally got all the bases covered for now and the future. It's just incredible.
But the fact you drafted Jordan Mailata quite low, and people were, again, an international pathway player as well. So not always on everyone's radar, and you went and snagged him really easily. You could definitely look at replacing Lane Johnson further in the offseason. Sky, we'll touch on what Andrew was sort of mentioning with Nick Sirianni, because he has been a contentious coach at times this year. He's passionate for certain, and he's loud-spoken and he's outspoken, much like the people of Philadelphia, which is why I think they love him. And sometimes I do always think sometimes it works when the coach is like the place, when they have that same mentality and the same vibe, they know how much it means to that city. Now, I'm sure every coach does, but you don't always get the personality to fit in with the trait of the city. Do you think Sirianni has influenced his team this much, or do you think Julian Love has a bit of a point? Or what do you gauge from Nick Sirianni this year?
I think it's tough to gauge because we've all touched upon how impressive they are. Probably have the best O-line, best D-line, best secondary. And obviously you don't want to take things away from the head coach, but when they haven't been in many close games where you can say, there was a particular 4th or 3rd down call or a particular drive, and you can highlight key points where a head coach has made the impact, it's tough to say. And I think as much as, he definitely strikes me as a coach who bodes well and fits in well with Eagles fans, but sports fans are fickle. I mean, he could win this Super Bowl, and then if they have one losing season, he's gone, and they've still got a high caliber roster to get another head coach in, and they're in contention again. So I don't want to take things away from him, but I just think, we all spoke about the pass rush. I know I said last week they got 4 players who had over 10 sacks, which is why Hassan Reddick's probably not in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I remember Andy asking me about that. The run game, we talk about people like who would have thought that, like, I know Boston Scott and he turns up against the Giants, but even him, Gainwell, Sanders. I saw something where they're 14-0 this season in games where they've rushed for over 100 yards. I mean, if that as a stat in itself, you don't want to take things away from the coaches, but, they just all speaks to the talent of the roster more so than I would say the coaching.
Yes, there's a certain head coach in Florida who could probably testify to being heralded by the Eagles fans and then dropping back down to earth very quickly, who has a certain long-haired quarterback that I think him and Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence may be a good combo for a very long time as well. Adam, I'll go to you with sort of maybe final thoughts towards the game now. What do the Chiefs have to do in this game to beat the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think they need to somehow control the ball and stop Jalen Hurts from getting on the field. That's really what it is. I think if you can do that, then obviously you will limit the amount of points they can score. I think it is very much that simple. I think when you look at it, you try and find the weakness in any matchup. And on the Eagles side, it's very, very difficult. On the Chiefs side, I look at the corners. That's what I look at, and that's where I sort of think, oh, well, I've found the weakness, and that's the problem. So I think it is very, very tough for them, but it is going to be trying to limit how much possession they have in the same way with, I think, any game. That's kind of what you have to do. You just have to try and limit the possession and try and get your run game going. I think that's the biggest thing that they can do. Pacheco and McKinnon, get them going, because you can run against the Eagles. That is, if there is a weakness, that is their weakness, but it isn't much of a weakness. But you can run a little bit, and that's probably what they're going to have to do, and try and do that as much as they can. But it's going to be very, very tough. And like I say, you've just got to limit the amount of time that Hurts is on the field.
So more clock management really is what the Kansas City Chiefs need to do. And I'll throw the same exact question to Andrew.
I think, we know my comments of what they've got to do. I mean, I opened the show with that. I'm going to throw this out. I've got a question for Adam, just so I can get it in there before we go away. Adam, who do you think is going to be the MVP? Obviously, you're the gambler of our league. You give all the advice. Throw one out. Who do you think's got the best chance of getting the MVP in this game? Will it be a quarterback, or could it go somewhere else?
When doesn't it go to a quarterback? Unless it's Aaron Donald.
I think he got it.
Okay. I think
didn't Von Miller win it the year?
Yeah.
So Hassan Reddick.
Wonder what the odds are.
I think it always. Yeah, you get a few, but as Sky said, it's the whole lot, isn't it? Together, that's the problem for the Eagles. It's not just the one guy, and so I think you're looking at an offense. I think it'll be spread around a lot. So on the Eagles side, I think you're looking at Hurts. I don't see anything else really. And obviously, if the Chiefs win it, no matter what happens, Mahomes will get it. So he could be on 0 legs and he'll still get it. So that's.
I've got a follow-up question for Gareth. If by some miracle Miles Sanders wins the MVP, gets 3 touchdowns, load of yards, give him the MVP, do you keep him or do you let him go?
It's a really hard one, because he's going to want paying. When we've already got Boston Scott, we can get on a relatively cheap deal. We've got Gainwell, we can get on a cheap deal. And with potentially, you could use the 32nd pick to pick up a really good rookie, because late first round, early second round is usually where you're going to be picking up really good running backs. So it depends on the numbers. If the numbers are right, and it's Howie Roseman, he'll find a way to squeeze in the cap somewhere, I'd keep him. Because this year has been a breakout year for him. As I say, 11 TDs, the amount of games he's dominated. I'd love to see him stay. But this is the first year he's shown that he's good enough, really, without being constantly on a medical table. So I'd love to keep him, but it's all about the numbers. And if the numbers aren't right, I'd rather go Gainwell, Boston Scott, and draft the rookie.
Sorry for hijacking your show there, Freddie. Go Chiefs.
More than fine. No, more than fine. I suppose I should go over to Sky and to Gareth I'll go to Sky first. What do the Eagles need to do to win this game against the Chiefs?
I think they just, I guess it's an obvious answer, just do what they've done all season and they will be successful. Defense is elite. Offense can put points up. But I do think, I know I touched upon saying probably most people hope it's not going to be a blowout loss for the Chiefs if you're a neutral. I think Mahomes and co will put points up. And I actually think the Eagles probably need to score, I don't know if it sounds like right, I think they probably need to score 25 points to win. That's what I said they need to do. They haven't needed to obviously be lights out in other games. Yes, they blew the Giants out. They got fortunate. Obviously, Purdy was injured and could manage the game. I think this one could be not to the levels of a Patriots-Eagles, that high scoring, but, could be if Mahomes gets going and they need to, keep it as a shootout, I think they need to score at least 25 points.
Interesting. And Gareth, on to you. What do your Eagles need to do to beat the Chiefs?
The defense needs to be locked in. So the coverage needs to be nothing silly, nothing long over the top. which we've been quite good at most of the year. I think, to be fair, if I saw a stat earlier, like the Chiefs are number 1 on short yardage throws. I think, again, trying to limit any run after the catch and try and force Mahomes into 3rd and longs as much as possible in the game. Anything like that. And to be fair, if the Eagles go 2 scores up early, I personally think it's done from the get-go, because any game where the Eagles go 2 scores up early, no one's come back at them all season. Don't get me wrong, some teams have run it back close, but then right at the end, if the Eagles need a drive, they always seem to get that drive to get the points on the board. So I think that the Eagles, if they play their game and that defense is locked in to the passing game, it should be a good night for us.
Can I get a score prediction from you, Gareth?
32-29.
32-29, the Chiefs. Wow, that's. I thought I'd try and slip you up there. Sky, who you got the winner? What's your score prediction?
Oh no, I'm worried.
Do you want me to come to you last, because you are usually?
I'll buy myself some more time.
Oh, okay. I'll let you buy some time. Adam, who's going to win this? What's the scoreline?
27-21 Eagles.
Fantastic. And Andrew, winner, scoreline?
27-23 Chiefs.
I'm going to go 28-23 the Eagles. I don't really like saying that, but they're just so good everywhere. I have to admit, I'll give you some more time, Sky, to think about it. I've sat back and listened to all you guys tonight. I've not really put my 2 pence in, I suppose. I would like the Chiefs to win this, but I look at the Eagles team and they are just formidable everywhere. They are so solid in all areas. And really, they do deserve to win it. They are the best team in the NFL. They're elite at every position. I completely agree with Adam's earlier point. The acquisitions they did in the offseason were just tremendous. I agree with Gareth, but the Harry Roseman effect is just brilliant in Philadelphia. They are a very, very good team to watch, and they certainly bring the fireworks every time. I don't know. I think longevity-wise, I'm not sure. I just think they're a bit too old in very key spots, and maybe need to start drafting these heir apparents, which they have done, I admit. But for every Jordan Davis, there's a Jalen Reagor. So, it might not be a hit every time is the thing. The Chiefs, Mahomes, you just can't write off Mahomes. You just can't write him off. He is too good. He's a generational quarterback, and he has shown us year on year that you can't doubt him, and in big games has performed. But there is definitely a lot of tape out there, that shows that the Chiefs can be really, really pounded on. They can be really beaten against when they come up against teams that are gritty and can get their hands in the mud and go. And the Eagles are this team. It's much like the Bengals I thought would be against the Chiefs, I suppose, but the Bengals just didn't really have it on that day. But I think the Eagles may on this day. If you talk about a team that goes into something amped up and with a hunger to win, all teams do, but the Eagles do it differently, I feel anyway. That's enough time I can give you, Sky, to ponder. Seems as you are one who avoids these questions.
Get off the fence.
I didn't avoid it in the title games. I was right on those. I had to make up for the divisional round.
Very fair.
I feel like I'm usually clear and concise, so I'm going to beat around the bush a bit here before I get to where I'm at. I think X factor for the Eagles for me is Dallas Goedert. I think that I don't think the secondary, if they continue to press the receivers of the Eagles, the Chiefs have a good chance. So if he has a big game, then I'd favour more the Eagles. But I think I've been banging on about Pacheco every week that I've spoke about the Chiefs. And I just think that, like Andy said, if we were talking about Belichick, Brady, and Gronk, I'd be sat here as a Patriots fan saying we're going to win, and they have Kelsey, Mahomes, and Andy Reid. And I think I'm going to say the Chiefs. I said 27-20 last week. Maybe that's a bit out of maybe 7 points a bit too much, because a lot of things I've seen maybe 1 point either way. But I'll say 24-20 to the Chiefs.
24-20. You watch it now and it won't even hit the 20s. It'll be like 14-17 money on it. I have to guarantee it.
Blowout.
Everyone loves that 13-3.
Yeah, that would be a crazy one as well. Well, thank you all four of you for coming on this evening. Thank everybody out there for watching us throughout the season. This is the last main show before the Super Bowl. However, we do have our betting show sponsored by 888 Sport coming later on in the week. Lots of betting for the Super Bowl on that to come with a lot of the guys here tonight. Very exciting. That should be on Thursday night, so make sure you catch that. And obviously, that'll be for you to catch up on YouTube, on Twitter, on all our social media channels before kickoff into Sunday morning. I believe it's 12:30, 1 o'clock. I hope you've booked Monday off. I certainly have. Make sure you check out our website as well, www.thefranchisetag.co.uk. Lots of fantastic articles on there by some really talented writers. We've got a lot of articles to come. Like I said, we've had some fantastic interviews as well recently by Gareth, who's been doing a lot of XFL stuff, a lot of really good players on that. Lots of fun to watch. So the football doesn't stop after the Super Bowl. We've still got so much more. Where's Derek Carr going to go? He's probably going to get cut in a bit. Is Aaron Rodgers going to ever come back off holiday and be at another team like he does every year? We've got free agency. We've got the draft. We've got fantasy football. We've got Dynasty League that we're definitely thinking about starting up. There's so much coming from the Franchise Tag podcast in the off season, as well as what's happened this season. I will thank people again in our show after the Super Bowl, which will be probably our last main show of this season, I suppose. But thank you all for watching for the most part. Enjoy the Super Bowl from me to you. Make sure you watch it with friends and family, in the pub, wherever you are. Have a great time. Have lots of beers, have lots of food, and we'll see you all again very soon.